these are not something you don't have to take a big bang approach of implementing an ERP kind of a thing. You can start doing it with one line, start getting the benefit out of it, keep fine-tuning it, and then go one line after the other and one factory after the other kind of thing.
And it's very important what you just said. I always say, when I did digital, every digital project needs to give its own benefit. You should not run a digital project and it doesn't have financial business benefit. Then don't even think about it. Because every digital project you do, however small it is, should show a benefit to the business. And it can be a financial benefit, it can be another benefit, but it should show clear benefits. Otherwise, don't even execute it.
Hello everyone, welcome to another Acuvate Coffee Conversations. I'm Rakesh Reddy, CEO Acuvate Software, and I've got my colleague here, Johan Krebbers, CTO at Acuvate. Hello Johan, welcome to another coffee conversation at Acuvate.
Yeah, pleased to be here, very good.
Yep. What have you been doing of late? What kind of data is getting crunched between you and your teams nowadays?
Oh, many different things. You want to talk about energy specific or in general?
Anything in general to start with.
We spend a lot of time looking at the whole end-to-end story, looking at how you collect your data, but also how you make it visible. So we're focusing on bringing that whole end-to-end story, which is big for any industry. And the end-to-end story is really you got your digital twin, where people are driving everything from where they make it visible, but also drive what they need and how they make the change to that data. And then you got AccuPrism as the engine behind that user interface. But of course, we do that in almost in any type of industry.
Correct. That's it. So I think if we get into a more specific thing for today, so more on the energy efficiency and energy management. I think our romance with the concept of energy efficiency, energy management. As I remember, it started soon after the COP26 event that was held at Glasgow. So I think, this was just post-COVID, or we were still stuck in the COVID lockdowns and all. Definitely, I had a lot of time to spare. So at least my interest in this thing started off by reading that COP26 document. And honestly, I saw a great opportunity there especially for businesses like us, that what we can help the manufacturing or CPG, any industry which is into manufacturing, on how can you help them on the energy cost reduction kind of thing on energy. But if you see, so soon after that, with all the Ukraine war and other thing, I think priorities all shifted. But the interesting thing that happened while we started our practice on or our thought process and our solutions on how we can help on energy efficiency for the customers. If you see the last 3 years, I think the transition has happened from a more regulatory kind of compliance kind of thing to a more compelling opportunity for businesses, right? So because it was from Paris Agreement to then the Glasgow Summit, it was more of mandates. What is a business plan on carbon footprint reduction kind of a thing. But now you see, and at least in the last year or so, where we have been helping our customers, where they're actually getting real benefit out of it. So it's no more a tick box to get a investor approval or a government compliance checklist kind of a thing. People are actually saving real money. And what we have seen with quite a few of our customers, where we've been helping them in this space, I think so wherever we are talking, with the increase in raw material prices and increase in the labor costs across the globe, across US, Europe, everywhere, and the energy prices going up. So I think that has put a significant pressure on the businesses to actually seriously look at it. Also, what we've seen is especially in the last 2-3 years, with more machines getting more intelligent with all the IoT and other things, which was there for quite some time. But I think the big challenge with the businesses was ability to crunch the data. How are you collecting it? How are you processing it? What sense are you making out of it? And finally, what is the decision that you'll be able to take? Was limited, and I think from GenAI and all the technology that has come up in the last 2-3 years, the ability for businesses to collect and use the data has significantly increased, and that's what we are seeing with our customers actually reaping the benefits out of there. So I think this is a really good transition from mandatory compliance to a very business lucrative initiative. So what are we offering to the customers? But before that, while it is really compared,
I want to say something, because you made all the right points. One thing which really came to the market, especially in Europe over the last 2 years, is of course we had to move from gas. Our gas supply in the past was Russia. We had to move out of that into getting LNG from the US, from Qatar. So the energy price shot up over a very short period of time. So the energy price in Europe is very, very high for manufacturers. So your point, you did highlight that the energy price went up.
Yeah.
But in some parts of the world, it went up extremely high. So like the chemical industry, those industries which are heavy users of energy, they really have very hard time now because of the high energy price. So they are really on the crunch. So your point is
actually, even at a factual thing. So I think most of our customers, what they've been saying, I think it is for all the manufacturing businesses. I think after raw material, this almost it's the second highest cost that the plants of the factories are actually having to incur. Yeah. I think for most of them, it's either number 2 in their cost bucket up there, or number 3. Yeah. So it has become that high. Yeah. So, and also it's just not about the cost going up; it's also the availability, right? Okay, even if some businesses have got a lot of margin, what is the availability? Yeah. So that also has become a
and the other one in this space, they have to move from current sources to renewables over time. So hide the environment. So that's also happening in the coming years. They really have to move from today. That could be from coal, from oil, or whatever they come to all renewable type of energy sources. Yeah, in this space.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely right. So one thing I think we should, I would want you to expand a little bit more is, we are seeing the clear advantages the businesses are getting in terms of pure cost saving, improving margins and things like that, but also increasing the life of the machinery. Yeah. Because in some of the customers that we are dealing with, you would recall, so many machines were just turned on and left there. I think these practices started happening from the ages where power was really cheap. Yeah. So from there, so you're increasing your margins, you're increasing the cost in terms of maintenance, in terms of the life of the machines itself. So these advantages are pretty evident and pretty glaring, right? And quite a few businesses are making good use of it. Yeah. But still, a lot of businesses are a little hesitant or probably they need a start point kind of a thing. Yeah. So, because you've been talking to a lot of them, what do you think are the challenges these businesses are seeing? Is it the initiation, or is it what do you call awareness problem, or is it just the complexity in their minds?
Well, we had quite coincidentally, we had a call last night with a company in the US, which is exactly the same space you were talking about. And if you look at it, and that's a typical example, more or less, they have a mix of fairly older equipment and new equipment, but at the moment they're hardly collecting any data about the infrastructure. And so people can talk about lots of things, but it's a data story in the end of the day, because you need to collect information for you to make the right decisions. And what you see still happening in many of these companies, that they don't collect their data. So then if you talk about collecting data, it doesn't mean that I always say also that the whole company has to move overnight. You can do it in a step-by-step approach. You can look at your most important production line and say, okay, on this production line, I might have only 2 or 3 critical components, and I start only collecting data of these 2 or 3 critical components, and start to see how can I optimize, what is the energy consumption, how can I optimize, like you just said, should I shut them down at a certain time and shut them up? It's really about, so what I think is just that starting point is often not always there with companies.
Yeah, and see, that would be true pretty much for any enterprise, unless a new large business has started in the last decade or so.
Yeah.
Because most of these large enterprises, large businesses into manufacturing space or chemical and petrochemical side of it, these are businesses which got established, which have been in operation for multiple decades.
Yeah.
So, of course, new plants, new production lines were set up.
Yeah.
So, some would be old, some would be new, some are generating data where you collecting or not collecting is a different thing, but at least they have the capability of generating data. So, and I think that is the norm pretty much in most of the businesses.
Yeah.
So, what would be our approach of or our advice to these businesses? Where do you have a starting point?
Our approach always been is first, that's important because we talk about, we didn't mention the word yet, but it's all about the world of digital, of course, because it's all digital data you're collecting here. But our advice always is, also in this case, now let's talk from an energy point of view. Where do you believe you're using most of your energy? Just take only that production or that part of your business and start collecting some very basic data. And it can be only very few sensors out there where you collect data about energy usage, some other type of data. But you look at your facilities and really take a small part of it. We call it a minimum viable product, where you say, okay, I only focus on that. I collect the data from that. I collect the data. I look at the logistics of the data. I apply analytics to that data and see what advice can I give out of that data. So you start, but start with something where you also can show the benefits immediately. Because I call them low-hanging fruit most of the time. But you can, the advance of digital, I always say, you can do it at very small scale. I mean, if in the past, when people deployed, as you know, an ERP system, they were all huge things which you couldn't do one part, almost the whole enterprise was impacted. By this, you can say, I only do this factory, or I only do this one production line in the factory, to start growing it over time.
Yeah, like what we're seeing at most of our customers in any production lines, whatever age they could be, even if there is a single line which is digitized, or the machines are able to emit data, give out the data, and where that is where we saw that almost 70% of the power is consumed by just like a few machines in primarily the heating or the cooling devices in the whole chain.
Yeah.
So you suggest we start from, ideally, it would be ideal to start from measuring those particular elements, and then looking at whether you're getting the optimized power output.
And because that's you already mentioned before, these are your low-hanging fruits then.
Right.
And also in the production line, you need the check, is all equipment being used? Because you also talked about it, it's very possible that people have something switched on, but they don't be used anymore for a long time. You also will find out, if you start collecting data on a production line, what equipment is used, what equipment is not used. And you can easily switch off equipment is not being used, and because just collecting time series data. The other one, which is also, of course, when you do product changes, is what's the best order shutting down the production line. Because some equipment needs shorter period or longer period to shut down. To do that in an optimized fashion. And the same, of course, with starting up a production line. Again, these are all ways of optimizing your energy consumption. So there are various things you can do, depend, of course, your facilities to optimize your environment.
So, what are the other challenges typically businesses have? Because typically all of this is considered as OT, and then you have IT.
Yeah.
So there is a divide, or not too much of a liking for each other, because I think the different systems and different jargons and different terminologies there. So how do you bring them together?
First, you're 100% correct. Because most of the things we have just spoken about, people would call OT type of data. Because it's really, you collect the data from your engines and what have you. And of course, what happened in the past, of course, or still happens in certain factories, that the data stays on the factory floor more or less, doesn't go anywhere. It's almost in a closed environment. And if you want what we just spoke about to be successful, you have to bring that data out, bring it to somewhere at some sort of data environment, data platform, and then start analyzing that data, because you need that OT data, but you also need the IT data, because the IT data will tell you about each piece of equipment, who's the manufacturer of the piece of equipment, etc. So it has information which is normally stored in your ERP environment, your SAP ERP environment. You need that data plus the OT data to do something with it. So having the OT data not available in your data platform means you can't really optimize. So it's very important for a company that OT speaks to IT. We always say IT cannot do without OT, and OT cannot do without IT. But you're quite right. The mentality of an OT person is a very different mindset than from an IT person. An OT person is somebody who is accountable for the physical running of the facilities, and says, don't tamper with my facility, because that could have huge impact if people start playing with it. And an IT person, of course, IT is a different mindset. But if the company wants to be successful, you have to bring these two worlds together. In several companies it's happening, but it's a prerequisite, I almost should say.
Yeah, and I think with now 5G being available and with cloud becoming comparatively much more affordable, I think all of the data can get out of the factory site and go into the cloud where everybody has got it. And of course, one of the major concerns typically all the OT folks have is about the cyber security. But with the new technology available, it's become pretty secure.
You can still, because cybersecurity is all about that no unwanted things come into your OT space. But what you do is, you get your data out of the OT space into the IT space. You're not going to play within the OT space itself, that you collect the data over there. You run your analytics outside the OT space into the IT space. But you have to, as I mentioned, you have to bring the data together. And of course, that pressure will get more and more, because if you want to apply, we talked about analytics a little bit, but if you want to apply, you talk about GenAI, well, GenAI needs access to data. So even also OT data, because it's all part of getting to a solution. So if for an enterprise to be successful in a digital space, you have to bring the OT and IT world together. There's no two ways about it.
And I think now with Edge also becoming really meaningful, powerful in a meaningful way. So it's no more also the dependence that the OT has to send away all the data to IT and then they process and just send them back. A lot of data processing and looking at which machine is consuming how much and what it ideally should be, or what is a comparable machine in the same line or in some other factory consuming. Most of these things are could be queried, or dashboards are available, can be made available for the factory on the factory floor itself for ready.
Well, you see the digital twin. We've spoken before about this, a digital twin. A digital twin, you could say, sits in the IT space, but is used by operations. So the OT's people are using the digital twin. Your maintenance people use the digital twin. Use your engineering staff using the digital twin. For your IT staff, but all these people are using the information on your digital twin. And what you see in the digital twin is a mixture of OT data and IT data. Because to run the facilities, at the end of the day, you need both. I mentioned the example before. If on your 3D representation of your facility, you see a pump. Okay, you see the OT data of the pump. Okay, what's the live data coming in? What's the time series data coming? But you also need to know, well, where does the pump sit in the setup, in your pipe instrumentation diagram. You always need to know what are the characteristics of the pump, what are the rotations I can have. That's all data, not in OT. That's all data started in IT. That's why we really should not talk anymore about an OT world and IT world.
It's more of a unified world now.
It's a digital world out there.
Digital world.
And you need both. And some data is collected here, some data is collected there. But talking about OT and IT data is really
there's a thing of the past.
Really old hat, because you need the two getting together to run your facilities.
That's right. Yeah. So digital twin, I think, starting digitizing or even collecting the data from the most critical parts of the production line could be a start point, and the digital twin is on the other extreme side of it, right? That would be the maturity curve, and based on our calculations and what we are seeing, starting to see is pretty much most of these initiatives are self-funded because you're going to save that much money, which will continuously keep going. Like you were mentioning, these are not something you don't have to take a big bang approach of implementing an ERP kind of a thing. You can start doing it with one line, start getting the benefit out of it, keep fine-tuning it, and then go one line after the other and one factory after the other kind of thing.
And it's very important what you just said. I always say, when I did every digital project needs to give its own benefit. You should not run a digital project and it doesn't have financial business benefit. Then don't even think about it. Because every digital project you do, however small it is, should show a benefit to the business. And it can be a financial benefit, it can be another benefit, but it should show clear benefits. Otherwise, don't even execute it. And you can have it very small, you can do it in a very much phased approach. And it can be, that's why it's also relatively easy. If every step has a benefit, then of course it helps you for the next step and the step thereafter, the step thereafter.
Yeah, and I think that is the exact thing, right? From a mandatory or a compliance requirement to a lucrative business advantage kind of a thing. Absolutely agree with you there.
No, that has really, in the energy space, that has really happened. And of course, in the energy space, what also happens, of course, is the whole, I already talked about it, the change. In the past, energy was very much big energy producers, and then nowadays, energy production is a distributed facility now. It's far more complex nowadays than it was ever in the past, where you have your local energy production maybe within the region, within the country. And in the past, of course, were huge coal or oil-based energy stations which produce the energy for a whole state or part of a state. And now if you go to any home with solar panels, so it's a far more distributed, far more complex environment now. And that also means for energy consumers, they need to think far more what to do. Do I need a battery? Do I need to go off grid when it's too expensive? Do I load the battery? So there are far more opportunities. So you need that data to make these decisions. Because it in the past was where you got the energy come from the grid and that was it. But those days...
Now you got an option of, it used to be just one provider and you just have to get onto their grid. But if we focus more on the factory, the businesses kind of this thing, it's primarily about figuring out if a particular machine is consuming the right amount of energy or not. When it is to be maintained, when it is to be replaced, probably.
And also, you also link that to your AI capabilities. So your production optimization, your predictive maintenance. So these you can't see the isolation anymore. These things all come together when you say it's maintained. Well, when it's maintained, it's purely in the past. Maintenance was fixed periods, but more and more it's been driven by that the system tells you when I need to be maintained. It's like the car. In the past, the car 10 years ago, a car would every 10,000 kilometers had to go. Nowadays, the car will tell you I need maintenance. But the same is happening, of course, in the manufacturing space. When you predict the maintenance, they say, I know if you do a shutdown, you can. In the past, shutdown was I have to replace maybe everything. Now, for the shutdown, if you do proper predictive maintenance, I only need to replace these 3 components because they normally almost going to fail in the next couple of weeks, couple of months. So you can be far more selective by collecting that data. So it's all about the moment you start collecting that data, put that data together, and it can be all very simple. We don't need a digital twin. You can start with a simple dashboard, just highlighting what the consumptions are. Like your example, you can per engine show the energy consumption. Just show it very simple, and people can immediately see why is that engine doing more than that. Of course, over time, you can grow that, and then it can start warning you about things.
Yeah, exactly. Now, excuse me. So now, because we have. So now, what are we doing as Acuvate to help businesses start small, start seeing the benefit, and then go on this path to the whole length of it for the highest levels of efficiency.
We have all the components it takes, honestly. Because if you think all about it, it's about, we have our Acu7 7-step approach. But it's about collecting the data which we know about. We know how to collect data. We can work about sensors. We know if it is how to get the data from your remote location to your data platform, and which is somewhere in the cloud, whatever cloud it is. Yeah. If it is time critical, we have edge facilities that I need to process data close to the source. So, and because then I need to do my analytics on the edge, very close to the source, as I mentioned. Yeah. All ours are being to my enterprise data platform. Then we have our analytics solutions, our own, but we can also support other people. And then, of course, we have to, an analytics solution will tell you then about how to optimize your environment. So, and then, of course, you have the visualization of it. We do have that whole end-to-end story. And we have the people to work with it, to first decide, okay, what's the best solution for you? What are the best steps? Because people really need help. How do I start?
Yep, exactly.
And okay, if I start in this way, if this is my main low-hanging fruit, what do I now? What is the data? Now do we help that person? How do I collect the data? How do I bring that data from my edge to my data platform? These kind of components, these protocols, because you got special network protocols for that. Bring it to the data platform, etc. That's our bread and butter.
Yeah, and also to start to get businesses started, we have some MVPs which are more or less ready to deploy, kind of, or accelerators which are 70% ready, where customers can start seeing the value much faster.
On top of AcuPrism, AcuPrism overall data and modeling, AI modeling platform, we have developed several of these solutions from an HSE point of view, from a predictive maintenance point of view, from an OE point of view, over equipment optimization point of view. We have these solutions ready, 80% ready, and then we go to when the customer wants it, we have to then update that model for that customer. Yeah. It might be different data, it might be other things, but we have a starting point from 80% there. Then now we have to change now to make 100% for the customer.
Yeah, that final 20% of customization would be more as per the customer's IT landscape.
And the other thing we have, things like, you already mentioned the word accelerator. We've got Diagram IQ, which is an accelerator to align data source, because people collect data, time series data from your Pi environment. You collect SAP data. You collect your data from your plant itself, your P&ID data. But in any typical company, all these three data sources use different naming conventions for that same device. So if you have a pump, the pump produces time series data. The pump is rested in SAP, and that pump is part of a P&ID environment. But in all three systems, they don't use the same naming conventions. So we also have developed tooling like Diagram IQ to start aligning that time series data with the SAP data, with the P&ID data. That when you come into the digital twin, where the things have to come together, because if you don't come together, you've got three data sources which don't know about each other. So that's what we also developed. We call it data contextualization.
Right.
Just to align these data sources when you end up with your digital twin. Or it can also be your user interface can be in.
Correct. So that would be, these solutions could be the quick ones to get deployed, or businesses can quickly deploy it and start seeing value and of course start the journey there.
That's why we use the term minimum viable products. We also, because it's important, we often talk about MVPs, not a POC, because we want to implement something.
Yeah, I think we had enough of history on the POCs, because pretty much most of the POCs are thrown into the dustbin after that.
Because the POC, once complete, you have to throw it away more or less. That's why we talk about MVPs, where you say we install something, you configure something, and it's operational, okay. You can start using it in your environment as an operational environment. It might be small scale, but it's fine. But you can grow from there.
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's
better utilization of money.
It's also starting, help you starting an environment.
Yeah, I think on the MVPs, I think we've got quite a few more offerings on the of MVPs that can be readily or near readily
and we also
deployed.
Demos. If people want to see things real time, we have
the demonstrations
demonstration we can give to the customer as well. on the spot as we speak now. Yeah, we can do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think pretty much all of them are listed on our website, and businesses can
And again, the rest over there. If they want to go to our salespeople or go to the
look at our website and
itself,
they can
on the
look at it.
website. It's all there. Yeah.
Yep. Very nice. I think it was a good, interesting conversation, Johan. I look forward to having more conversations like that. And of course, I know that you are already working on more different applications on
we will
data.
have more presentations, guys.
Yep.
Things will happen. Things are not stopping.
Yep. Very nice.
Thanks for good to talk to your guests.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.